Welcome back for another preview video for a game seeking crowdfunding, and this time we're going to present to you, I'm going to show you an expansion for a very compact game. The game is Micro Architects, which I had the pleasure to play and preview when it was seeking crowdfunding, and then now having it in my library in its final production form, and then moving to the first expansion, the Big City Vacation, which comes into this nice yellow box, which is the same size as the core box, which adds 2 additional modules in the game. So if you don't know anything about Micro Architects, I highly advise and urge you to check and look how the game plays. You can see the components and the great production value of this tiny little box. I've done a preview on how it plays. I've shown in a separate unboxing video with the final game after it was produced from crowdfunding how it looks. And now I had the pleasure to add into the mix this advanced prototype of this expansion, the Big City and Vacation expansion, which adds 2 modules, as I mentioned, which they both can be added and play together at the same time with any other previous released modules and the core game. That means you can mix and match. You can either add only the Big City, we can add only the Vacation, you can also add everything together with the core game, with the Residence module, which is from the core game, and have a blast. These 2 modules add not just more of the same, but they add additional elements, additional gameplay, and many more scoring opportunities. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to tell more about the game and my first impressions and my first sessions when I add it into the mix. And also I'm going to explain, and I'm saying it right up front, why I'm never going to play it again moving forward without the expansion for specific reasons, which I'm going to cover at the end of this video after I explain how the game plays. But what I really want to highlight up front is that I love it when expansions, they don't just add more of the same. Okay, don't get me wrong, I want more of the same, but I also want something on top of that. I want more gameplay, I want more twists, and in this case, different additions and different scoring opportunities. So join me at the table, I'll show you how the game plays, I'll explain the very simple rules, and then you understand why they're both very interesting and you can easily mix them and add them both into your games of Micro Architects. As always, I'm going to add a link in the description of the video for the crowdfunding campaign. It's going to launch soon on GameFound. Do make sure to follow and be notified when the game launches, and join me after I explain the game rules and the rule set at the end of this video for my final wrap-up and first impressions from the prototype of Big City and Vacation. Micro Architects Big City Vacation is an expansion for Micro Architects that needs a copy of the base game in order to play it. And this expansion introduces not 1 but 2 modules to play the game. You can incorporate any or both of them, and they can also be played with any other released module and expansion, making this extensively replayable if you consider that the core game was highly replayable itself. So just to show you, this is the core game of Micro Architects. If you hadn't had a chance to discover it, I highly recommend it. It's a very unique, beautiful and compact game. I've done preview video when it was seeking crowdfunding, and now the game has been fulfilled. So the components you see, which are fantastic, and I've done a separate unboxing video for those, you can revert to that, are amazing. Now, this Troy is going to seek crowdfunding via GameFound for the first expansion, which comes in a similar box and adds 2 modules which can be either played separately or combined. So let's focus on the components. The components are related, as I mentioned, to 2 different modules. The first module, the Big City, is a module that has the 12 skyscrapers, which are these buildings here. You have 2 of each of the colors. Essentially, these are large buildings which take a dual spot, okay, and you need to place them, as you will see down the road, by having some requirements plus 2 yellow adjacent buildings in this case, for example 2 of those, okay. And they're really nice. Of course, this is prototype. I'm guessing that through stretch goals, if you follow the campaign, these are going to also be screen printed and beautiful looking. So these are 12 skyscrapers, 2 per building type, and except landmarks, and they have also their respective skyscraper cards, okay, which you see. So there are also 20 hotels. These are these buildings here, which act as a kind of like a joker for placement, replacing any of those, but not for goals, we'll see. And there are also 10 residents, which are these. Again, this is prototype, that's why they're not screen printed. But if you are playing with the residence module, when you're adding the residence and the resident board, which is part of the core game, fantastic expansion, mini expansion as well, then you're using the residence. And if you're using the residence module and you're using the big city vacation expansion, you'll be also adding the residence turquoise. Now, the second module, called Vacation, has 4 resort boards, which, as you can see, these are also recessed. They're equal size with the main board. And again, this is prototype, but you can imagine that the quality is going to be great quality recessed boards like the original ones from the core game, I mean. Okay, so there are 4 of those, 1 for each player, since the game plays from 1 to 4 players. These are called resort boards. There are 4 cruise ships, 1 per color. Okay, and you see that again, these are these nice ships that are going to be traveling from spot to spot, collecting different bonuses if you meet the requirements for the destination. More on that later. You're going to take one of those in the player color, and I'm guessing that they're also going to be screen printed. Then there is a linen bag. This is a bag with a fantastic logo from MicroArchitects core game, with all these buildings included in there. There's a lot of buildings there, and just already placing some for starting the game. And then there's going to be a linen bag for the respective resort tokens. Okay, these are 60 resort tokens, which fall under 4 different types, as you'll see here. We have cocktails, we have palm trees, huts, and lighthouses, I suppose. And these are also appear to be, at least in the prototype rulebook, screen printed. So hopefully these are going to be also screen printed as well via stretch goals. Then there are 60 of those, as I mentioned, which come into their own linen bag, 15 lighthouses, 15 sun umbrellas, 15 huts, and 15 palm trees. And these make up for the components of the vacation module. So let's take a moment to focus on each of those modules and see what they do. First, we have the big city. The theme for the big city is, as you can imagine, a big city. Your city has grown beyond imagination, and you gaze upon it with pride. Yet a spark stirs within you with new ideas that begin to take shape. The city stands tall, but there's still room for improvement. With fresh energy and mind bringing with inspiration, you begin sketching your next blueprint. This module will let you construct larger buildings called skyscrapers, and they have special placement conditions and unlock you several scoring opportunities. So let's see the setup for this module. Again, you can combine everything all at once. Sounds like a movie title, but everything from previous release modules with this expansion, with everything you can play even for solo. So this is tremendous value. I really enjoy the core game, so I'm looking forward to combine it once this is finally produced with the expansion. And I really enjoyed my first tries with the game, trying it as a test, as demoing it for making this video. So what you do as a setup for the big city is you add the 20 hotels to the bag with the rest of the buildings, and then proceed with the following steps. First of all, what you do is you set up the game as with the main game. So for example, here is a 4-player game, and I've placed 4 rows with 8 buildings from the bag, okay, placing the rest of the cards, the landmarks, all the objectives here, and so on. And each player is going to take their main board again, regardless if you're playing with the residence module or not. You decide if you want to add it or not. It's fully possible. And then during setup, what you do for big city in specific, you sort the skyscraper cards by building color and display them in easy reach for all players. So first the two green, the two red, the two yellow, and so on. And you place one. I'm just placing them sideways, but theoretically these are going to be on the card. So I'm just placing it there for you to see from this point of view, from the video above. You're placing these cards and the respective tokens on the card itself. At this point, if you're playing with the resident module, you add 10 resident meeples from the expansion with the other meeples, and you add them in the buildings on the display according to the rules for the residence module, meaning these are going to be beneath each odd building. Okay, so when you pick them up, you're going to be picking up one resident, but you can find rules for the resident module in the core box. Now the hotels are again these turquoise buildings, which are going to be screen printed like those here. I mean, look at that. They're not only screen printed from both sides, they have custom unique shapes, and each of those has a different shape. I mean, if this isn't the production value for money, set gameplay aside, which I really love, I don't know what it is. This is fantastic development and production. And these are the hotels. So hotels are treated as jokers, always matching when scoring different things. However, the service cards requirements are fixed, and hotels cannot be used to fulfill those. Okay, in practice what this means is these joker buildings, they cannot be used for scoring services, meaning those cards here for extra victory points, again specifically the colors indicated, but they can be used as jokers, replacing any color, for goals and for landmarks. Okay, so that's how we add them in the mix. Then, how we play the game with the big city module. The skyscrapers are a new type of building that you may place on your city board. Their number is limited, as you can see from the display, and you need to meet certain conditions. In order to acquire a skyscraper and place it on your board, you need to fulfill certain conditions. First, you must have two buildings of matching color adjacent to each of those adjacent to each other in one single block. What it means is that if, for example, I want to place, let's say, this red building here, I need to have two singular red buildings, okay, within the same block. Okay, so let's say here. And I will be replacing them by removing those, returning them in the bag, and placing in their place the skyscraper, which, as you can see, I don't know if you can see, it fits really nice and takes two slots the same way the single buildings do in the recessed slots. So you must have two buildings of matching color adjacent to each other in one block. Okay, this could be vertically or horizontally, doesn't matter, but within the single block. Okay, so they cannot be in adjacent blocks. The second condition is that the block must be filled. So in essence, I cannot do that. I need to have other buildings in here, meaning before I place the skyscraper and replacing the two single ones that I did before with this a red skyscraper. Okay, so imagine here having also two red ones. I need to have it completely, let me show you in practice. So they need to be full. The block needs to be completely full, okay, like in this case. And then I need to have two of those next to them, like that or like that, doesn't matter. And then I will be able to replace it and place the fitting color skyscraper if it is available, meaning not taken from another player, and if I meet the requirements on the card as well. In this case, there are no requirements for the red one, okay, but they reward you 0 points at this stage. They will reward you 2 victory points at the end of each scoring phase, and at the end of the game, the player who has the most skyscrapers altogether, they're going to gain an additional 2 victory points, but more of that later, okay, but they don't have any requirement. That's not the same for the rest of the skyscrapers. As you can see, they have specific requirements. For example, to place this green skyscraper, you need to be placing it next to a mountain, meaning either here or here, here or here, here or here. I cannot place it next to the river. Okay, this is a requirement for this one. keep in mind that this is not the same requirement nor rewards for the other green skyscraper. Okay, this has separate requirements. So that's the third condition there is that I need to meet, the card condition itself. Both buildings must be next to water and mountain or require certain colors of buildings in the same block. Okay, for example, this one means that the skyscraper, the two green ones that I'm going to replace with a double green skyscraper, they need to be, first of all, next to the water, and they need to be, these two, they need to be next to two greens, next to one yellow and one blue. Okay, and they will give me 3 victory points. If any of the two buildings meet the criteria shown on the card in the display, you may replace them with the corresponding skyscrapers. You return the replaced buildings into the bag, like I showed you before, and then you take the matching skyscraper card and place it next to your play area. Also, you gain, of course, the building meeple, and you place it into the slot by replacing the two single buildings. Immediately you gain any printed victory points, and from now on you cannot in any way change the position of the skyscraper. I remind you that there are actions that you can switch single buildings by taking actions in the core game. Once you place the skyscraper, a double building in essence, you cannot move it or switch position in any way. For the scoring phase. During the scoring phase, if a skyscraper shares a block with a landmark, let's say for example we also had a landmark in this case. I'm going to place another skyscraper because I don't want to be placing the same. Okay, so let me place this one here. Okay. So if your skyscraper is sharing a block with a landmark, I remind you the black ones are the landmarks. Okay, it is treated as two buildings, and additionally you gain 2 victory points for each skyscraper in your city. Okay, this means that this landmark is next to 2 blue buildings, right? Because this could be a requirement for placing originally the 2 single blue buildings. During final scoring, the player with the most skyscrapers will gain 2 victory points, and if there is a tie, all tie players will gain the 2 victory points. There are also rules to add this big city module into the solo mode, but this is going to be revealed later on. So there you have it, a very simple module using the placement of these big buildings, which give you additional opportunities for scoring, additional requirements and scoring opportunities, and they also, if you ask me, provide a more wow effect by taking a look on your filled-in player board with beautiful buildings, but also with skyscrapers down the road. Okay, so this is how you play the game with the big city module. Now let's talk about the vacation. You've poured time and energy into helping your city reach its full potential. It's been a long time and it's been a very demanding journey, one you took on without hesitation. But when was the last time I took a vacation, you muttered to yourself, half amused, but as always your thoughts drift immediately to the residents who live in the city you designed. They deserve moments of rest and joy, places where they can breathe, recharge and celebrate the world you've built together. So you make a mental note to bring the idea to the city council at the earliest opportunity. And after all, you realize designing for their happiness and leisure is just as vital as building their homes and workplaces. So how is the setup for the vacation module? First of all, we perform the setup as described in the core rules, with the following changes and additions. The first is that we put all palm trees, hats, lighthouses and sun umbrellas in the vacation bag and shake them as well. I remind you, these are these very nice meeples, okay? But they have their own linen bag and we put them in there and shake them well. Then we randomly draw a token from a vacation bag and add it to every other building, starting with the second building in each row. Meaning, forget about the second, third and fourth row and focus on the first row. In this setup, I'm going to draw a token from the bag randomly and add it in every other building, starting with the second building in each row. Meaning, after this blue, there's going to be a random token of those from the bag. After this green, another random one from here. After this purple, and after this blue. Okay, and this is going to be repeated for all sets. I'm just squeezing here everything now because this is a setup for the core game. But when you're playing either with the modules, with the resident module, or with the vacation module, or with both, you're going to be having pieces beneath each building as well. I remind you that with the resident module you have after every odd, beneath every odd building, a resident added. If you're playing both with the resident and the vacation module, you'll have beneath every building a token. Okay? But depending if it is an odd or even, it's going to be different based with the module you're adding, or both. Then you randomly draw, every player is receiving a resort board and placing it next to them. So you see this is a resort board, okay? And you're clicking it nicely next to the river, which flows in the middle of the city, and they click together really nicely. And if you're playing with the resident module, this is going to click here as well. So you take your cruise and you place it next to the board. You're not going to be placing it on the starting spot. You're going to be placing it once you start. And you place 4 random tokens from the vacation bag in the reserve pool next to the architect's board here. The same way like we have 6 starting buildings, we also have 4 random resort tokens from the resort bag. Now, how we play the game. The game is played in a similar fashion, but it introduces the resort board and special tokens that you can build on it, expanding your strategy, your options, and providing additional scoring opportunities. So let's focus on the resort board. Okay, I'm going to take it and show you up close. Each player now has a resort board featuring various destinations. Each destination can hold 1 or 2 resort tokens on the depicted type. Meaning here you need to place a hut, here you need to place a lighthouse, and here a palm tree. Okay, here a sun umbrella, and here a hut and a palm tree. Okay, so each stop is going to have a different on your travel. So when you start here, you need to already have placed a hut. If you want to move further on and gain the rewards printed on the location your cruise is going to reach, you need to already have placed the required pieces, in this case a lighthouse and a palm tree, to be able to travel to the next space and gain the printed rewards. And you get the idea. The same goes with the rest. In order to move it further, you need to have this already placed so that you can keep moving. Okay, so this is a primarily how it works, and the main idea. On your turn, when you take a building with a resort token beneath it, you assign it, and you may place a token on 3 spots ahead of your cruise ship. Meaning in this case, I have, if I'm starting and I haven't introduced my cruise ship there, I can place it up to 3 spots ahead. Okay, that's how you place them. And of course, they need to be matching the space on the resort board where you place them. If you don't have any suitable space available, then you return the token to the bag. And you may spend 1 action token that you have and you are willing to spend in order to exchange the resort token that you acquired this turn for a resort token from the reserve here. Okay, and make better placing, or even make it possible because before maybe it wasn't possible to place what you picked. Now, once per turn, you may move your ship by 1 space. The first time you do it, you just place it on the first spot, meaning here. Okay, and you cannot. The rule is that golden rule is that you cannot move to a space that is not adjacent to a placed resort token. You must first place the required token or tokens to unlock the path, and then use the 1 movement per turn and move your ship. After moving your ship, you gain the rewards from the space it reaches. Okay, so that means I cannot even introduce the cruise on the board if I haven't first received and placed a sun and umbrella. If I have done that, then when it's my turn, I'm able to make one move. Okay. Keep in mind, moving forward, I can place up to 3 spots ahead resort tokens again from the matching, not the matching, the paired building when I select them in the normal course of the game. Then when you reach a token with your crews, you gain the rewards. In the first one you don't gain anything, but keep in mind that as you progress, and let me show you an empty resort board, here you're going to gain 1 victory point, here you're going to gain 1 action token, here you're going to gain 2 victory points, here 2 victory points and another action token. Okay, here you can slide back a boat onto the saving, and then here 2 victory points and 1 action token, and here, depending if you reach this destination first, second or third, that's why it introduces a racing element as well. The first player to reach the final destination of their cruise race, they're going to gain 6 victory points, the second, fourth, and the last 2. So this is also important because essentially if you want to gain the 6 victory points, you need to be the first one who reaches the last spot in their cruise board, okay, in the vacation board. So this is how essentially the module is added. On the cleanup phase of the vacation module, you perform as usual with one additional step. You put all of the resort tokens from the reserve pool back to the vacation bag, you shake it well, and then you draw 4 tokens to create the new reserve pool, okay, like we did at the start of the game. So there you have it. These are the simple but very, very interesting additions. Both the big city and the vacation introduce excellent scoring opportunities. They expand the game, they give more options, even more options, and if you ask me, they make it look even more gorgeous. So there you have it. These are the rules for the 2 modules. Again, keep in mind that you can combine everything that has been released, meaning the core game, the residence module, and any other module with any of the 2 modules added with the Micro Architects Big City and Vacation expansion. A great expansion, not just more of the same, but more gameplay, more opportunities, extension boards, different buildings, and much more fun. So there you have it. Let's wrap it up and join me back up for my final first impressions from my first sessions with the expansion. So there you have it. This is the Big City and Vacation expansion. This is a big box, okay? It brings a lot of content. Any of the 2 modules, either the Big City or the Vacation, adds a ton of stuff, okay? If you fall into this category like me, when you want your expansions to bring a lot of content, both in gameplay but also in components, even if this is a compact and simple to get behind game, then this expansion is for you. But I would stress out 2 more things that make it stand out, because we've seen tremendous amount of expansions. I tend to get most of the expansions for the games I love, and I have to admit that in some cases, even some of my beloved games, even though I love them, I don't have the time to mix the expansions into the core game, either because I don't have time to read the expansions, or I don't have time to explain it to someone who already knows the core, and we just have a very short amount of time to play a session, and so on, okay? So not always the expansions get onto the table, at least from my side. I want to play more expansions, but it's much more difficult. Now, this expansion can be incorporated into your gameplay without a sweat. First of all, you just need, I don't know, 5 minutes to read the extra rules for for both of the modules. Okay, they're very, very simple. Yet, they offer tremendous additions. First of all, the Big City. The Big City adds those nice dual buildings, these city scrapers, as they're called, which they essentially are like 2 single buildings click together, having a unique shape and size and screen print, I'm sure, and having different scoring, different requirements to build it, and giving you scoring opportunities. So there is a lot of things to consider on top of your normal pattern building from the core game, because you have extra possibilities to gain more victory points. Okay, it's a simple addition. Doesn't reinvent the wheel, doesn't bog your mind with rules. Very, very simple, very straightforward, but it works really nice and gives you a lot of things to go after, all of the players, all at the same time. And you can also add it as a solo, add it with all the modules, etc. And it looks great. Not to mention, having a mixed city of single-size buildings plus the dual-size buildings, the skyscrapers, of different colors. It looks really, really nice. I don't know, there is a feeling of satisfaction when you complete your city in this tiny little micro-architects game. The second module, the vacation module, it's amazing. Essentially, it's a big truck which moves around. You have your cruise ship that moves around, but in order for you to get to the next step, the next level, and gain the rewards, which are typically victory points and action point markers, etc., you need to pave the path, meaning you need to acquire and place matching resort tokens like lighthouses, huts, umbrellas, and palm trees, depending on the spot, which you take with your paired, matched from setup buildings from the drafting selection from the core game, in a similar fashion like you had the residence, but allowing you to progress on this nice track, giving a very nice extended board when you put the main board next to the vacation board with all the trees and all the cruise path, etc. It looks really nice, and gives you also a motive for racing towards the end of this track, because the first player to get there is going to gain 6 victory points, which is a lot in this game and can make the difference if you play your cards right. No cards to play, but you get the idea. So all in all, fantastic addition. It's again one of those expansions that once you play them one time, you're never going to play the game without them. There are a few games like that. Lords of Waterdeep is one of my favorite examples of expansions that I would never play the core game without the expansion, and so on. And this falls in this category as well, I would say. Great value for money, great production, a ton of components, beautiful components, even if it's in an advanced prototype state, and I would say an expansion not to miss. But even if you didn't know anything about micro-architects so far, it's a really cozy, easygoing, fun, highly enjoyable game that goes almost everywhere because it's compact, has a ton of components, and looks absolutely gorgeous. And if you're into these pattern building games with simple rules, you should definitely check it out, not to mention the expansion. So many thanks for watching, and do visit the link in the description of the video to find out more about the campaign and when it's launching, which is really, really soon. So many thanks and stay tuned. Happy gaming!